Joe Blasco back with GregCannom. Greg, let's talk a little more about this this werewolf-type looking makeup. How long did that actually take to apply?
It wasn't too bad. It was about 2 hours.
2 hours.
Because when I do a makeup, you have to keep the actor in mind. You have to get them in and out of
Yes.
it. You can't. I can't spend 8 hours a day making somebody up.
Yes.
I've done some 8-hour makeups because they're so complicated.
Yes.
But wearing it every day, you can't do that.
Yeah. Do you remember the time we worked? We didn't actually work together, but we were on the same stage down on La Brea. Mm-hmm. And I was doing, I can't even remember who I was doing. They had called me in to do some pickup shots for a film, and I can't recall the young actor's name, but he needed to have a hair lace applied, and I went in to do that. And you were in the very next makeup room, and you were doing a test makeup of some sort. And it was a skull-like appliance. Do you recall that?
Yeah.
It was amazing what you did. You went in the room, and within just a little longer time than it took me to put the hair lace appliance on, you walk out with this incredibly beautifully applied full face. Well, it must have been several pieces, but that amazed me because I'd never really seen anyone apply an appliance as quickly as you did and have it look as flawless as it did. So, and I wished I could remember what that was that we were shooting. But the work that you did, obviously, in Bram Stoker's Dracula is just, groundbreaking. But let's talk about another groundbreaking makeup that really, it just, when I saw it, it blew my mind. All of them, not when I say it, I mean the picture and the makeups that you did and that you supervised and designed. For Bicentennial Man. Now, I had recently moved back to Los Angeles, and I was in an apartment that I had rented while my house was being built, and I was up late one night, and on television came this film, Bicentennial Man. I had never seen it, so I'm going to watch this. So I started watching it, and the film is incredibly interesting and fascinating, and as time goes on throughout the film, Robin Williams and the other, there's an actress, I can't recall her name, they age. And the aging makeup that you did in silicone, I was riveted. I was absolutely just riveted by this breathtaking silicone work that you did. And at that point, I thought to myself, this is it. Who's going to outdo that? And I remember getting on the telephone and calling information 411 to get this man's telephone number, and I looked to see who did the makeup in the credits, and luckily you were listed. And I don't know if you're listed anymore, but they gave me his telephone number, and I called, the machine picked up, and I said, I don't know that we've ever met, but this is Joe Blasco, and I just saw the Bicentennial Man, and I have to tell you, it's the finest, most realistic-looking age makeup that I have ever seen, and I doubt if it will ever be able to be outdone. And I don't know, I might have had a few drinks or so, but it brought tears to, I was looking at this, and it actually brought tears to my eyes because it was so flawless. Tell me how you did it.
And that's when I called you back, and I really appreciated you.
Yeah.
And that's when we became friends. And
that's right. That's when it began.
So,
but wait a minute. We met before that.
We met before.
Back at the. Do you remember in Chicago?
Yes.
There was this little guy standing off in the corner while I was doing these fast construction makeups with wax and putting cuts and lacerations on this person's face who we pulled out of the Walker Buys at this exhibition show, this Halloween type of costume exhibition show. And I noticed that there was this young man standing off in the corner, was watching me all day, and he was very, very quiet. Well, finally, he came up and he talked to me, but we really didn't know each other or get to know each other. And it was just, how'd you do this, how'd you do that? And then he disappeared for years. And then it wasn't until we met for lunch after I had called you about Bicentennial Man that I looked at you and I suddenly realized, that's the little boy that was standing off in the corner watching me do those construction makeups. So it's destiny.
Well, that's the great thing about makeup is that you keep learning.
That's right.
And I love, watching everybody has a different way of doing
Right,
things,
right.
and you learn, and I keep learning all the time. That's what
Absolutely.
the fun
But
part of it.
let's talk about the makeup. The silicone. Was this the first time you had worked with silicone, or?
Well, we had on a film I worked with Russell Crowe, and I did a test of the silicone for The Insider.
Yes.
And we just didn't have it down good enough yet.
Yes.
And Wes Wofford and myself.
Yes.
He had done using silicone. He had done something in a music video we had done.
Yes.
And then I had my ideas
Yes.
of trying to do a silicone. So I saw him do this, and I went, I think if you take this material and make the mold like this, and then do that one thing you're doing,
Yes.
and try that, and do it all together.
We're not letting any secrets out here.
No, this is still. I can't yet, but.
We'll have Wes on. We'll see what he has.
But
to
it was
say.
a very simple idea, and it worked because the history of silicone, I'd seen Dick Smith do makeups, and there were films that other people had done,
Yes.
and beautiful makeups, but they took 8 hours to apply,
Yes.
and they were one piece, and it was all colored intrinsically,
Yeah.
and I just wouldn't have anything to do with that. It's just, how can you work inside a mold and sculpt it on a corrected form,
Right.
and then color it, and then if the actor's skin isn't the right color, they've been
Yes.
out in the sun, you can't,
Yes.
the makeup won't stick to it.
Yeah.
And I'd seen makeups Dick Smith had done in Japan, and the makeup wouldn't stick to it, and it was really bothering me. And so I didn't want to do a silicone unless I could glue it on in pieces like foam,
Yes.
color it with makeup, because I'm a makeup artist and I want to be able to color
To
it.
do makeup, right?
And so I just, so Wes and myself, and then Wes took it and made it work.
Yes.
And brilliant silicone, and we tried it on Russell, and it was unbelievable how I tried a little piece here, but we hadn't got the edges down yet. And so I did the makeup I did on Russell with stipple and that. And actually, because we were going to do foam, and I know it wouldn't have held up in Kentucky in summer.
Yes.
So I came up with this stipple makeup, which worked really,
Yes.
really well. But I know now the silicone would have held up.
Yes.
But it just wasn't there yet.
But the edges were the
The
difficult
problem,
part in the
trying
beginning.
to get edges
Not
in the
now.
beginning. And then we did Bicentennial Man, and Wes was on there with me, and he should have been nominated with me.
Yes.
As for some reason, the makeup committee decided to take him off, and I've never understood that. He did every makeup with me on the side.
Yes.
And created the silicone, and eventually we got a Technical Achievement Award for the silicone a couple of years ago.
Oh, very good.
Which was cool.
From-
It was
from
the first
the-
time the Academy that a technical achievement had been given for makeup.
Excellent.
So Wes and I got that, so I felt good about that. But I was nominated, and they wouldn't put his name on the ballot because it wasn't fair to the other makeup people on the show, even though it was the age makeup that they
Yeah.
were looking at.
Yes, yeah.
And so that was very upsetting. So anyway, on Bicentennial Man, we got on and we did a test makeup on Robin Williams the first time, and because he ages from
That's amazing.
he ages to
Yeah.
200 years old.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And in the course of the film, he comes up with new medical devices that make other people. So Embeth Davids,
Yes.
who's in the film, she ages to 134,
Yes.
around that age. And she had to play two characters, and it was all over the place. And we were, every day on that film, every single day, we would do a makeup in the morning on what was shooting that day, age makeup, and in the afternoon we'd do a test makeup of what was going to shoot the next week
day.
or so.
Oh my God.
So there wasn't one day we didn't do that. We were all over the place. And we
Youth
did the
is a
silicone.
wonderful thing.
It is. But what was interesting about the silicone, we still were working on edges, and some of the appliances had edges that, you put the eye bags on and the edges blended onto the cheek. And we're like, oh crap, there's this edge. And we go to dailies and it wasn't there.
Amazing. But there was a translucency to it.
Yeah, it disappeared on
Yeah,
film.
because it was flattened out by the process.
So, and then we finally, during the course of the film, we were just playing. We were
Yeah.
trying everything, and I did a couple of gelatin makeups.
You were a
and
pioneer there. You were pioneering.
We were.
this.
And I think about a third of the way through the film, we got the edges down, and but what I liked about it, what I tried to do in Bicentennial Man is I wanted to put heavy makeup on him because it was a science fiction film, and I wanted the look of it to look like the makeups like This Island Earth.
Yes.
Where they were heavier in the 60s, 50s and 60s, they were heavy makeup. Even the bases were heavier. But I wanted it to look like a science fiction film and not so realistic. And he's a robot. So I did a lot of blotching and I did heavy makeups because I wanted to look like there was a heavy base on him.
But it didn't look heavy.
And you couldn't see it. And it was funny because years later, Dick Smith came up to me at the makeup show, and I told him how I did it, and I told him how I put so much makeup on it, because I had never talked to him yet about the makeup and how the silicone worked, because they're all, and what he said was that it was, they're all trying to get this intrinsically colored silicone. And not put much makeup on, but then here I go and I do a silicone makeup and put all this makeup on like I always do, and the light goes right through it.
It goes through the makeup.
And I was just shocked how real it looked, and and he said, which he wrote later in a magazine. I hadn't thought of that, but he said, we've tried to get it so real. And the makeups that have been done up to that point that were intrinsically colored look great up close, but from a distance, they look kind of flat.
Flat and pasty.
Where my makeups look good up close, but then from a distance, because I'm able to go and put it in the age spots and make up the silicone, it
still has that three-dimensional, realistic quality.
The one thing I've always tried to do with makeup on prosthetics is people go in and they try to do these super realistic makeups, like age makeups and the age spots and all that. And to me, it isn't right, because if you get an older person in, the first thing you do on a film is you put makeup on them, and get rid of, tone down their spots. And so I've always tried to make it look like it's real, but that there is makeup on it, because it has to be with the other actors who are all wearing makeup.
Yes, exactly.
It has to fit in the film. So when I do age spots, I go in, and age spots are a hard thing to do because people always do them so heavy.
Too dark.
And I do go in with tattoo, and I do subtle age spots, and then I take alcohol on a Q-tip, and I go back in and knock them all down to where you can hardly see them, because they always look twice as heavy on film.
Do you powder over them with a no-color powder, or
no, or anti-shine or something.
Anti-shine, very good.
I try not to use too much powder.
Excellent. We'll be right back. We're going to stop just for 1 second. We'll stop for 1 second, and then we'll be right back with GregCannom, and don't you go away.